Hello everybody, this is The Specifist, and today we're going to be talking about motivation as regards to health. Welcome to The Specifist. Specify your philosophy and life. I guess I'm starting a trend here because now I'm starting a part 2. I made an episode a while back. It was like a week or two ago, called The Mechanics of Laziness, Understanding How Your Laziness Ticks. And today we're talking about something semi-related, but basically going over motives, over why certain people do certain things. In this case, relating to health, because I was talking with some friends of mine, and talking about how one friend was talking about how they thought that some people didn't consider their health enough. And I was thinking about it, and I'm like, I don't think it's about that at all because of the way motives work. Most of the time, what I've noticed, at least in myself, is that when I don't consider something, it's not because I don't consider the thing, it's because I consider something else. Like a good example is, let's say somebody considers things that are more sensory, like, oh, by the way, your clothes that you put on, they don't match. How did you not notice that? Well, there could be a couple of reasons. One of the reasons is that you're blind and you don't really notice those things. The other thing is that you couldn't care less because you're not motivated by if things match or not. Well, the other thing is your mind could have been on other things and not notice that your clothes didn't match. Things like this. And so I don't really think it's about like not focusing on that thing because it's not what interests you. I think it's more about what other motivations are at play. I want to talk about the mechanics of why people don't focus on their health. Like a good example is, because this is something that's been kind of on the rise lately, especially, is obesity, right? A lot of people like to talk about how obese people don't focus on their health, don't care about their health. I don't think that's it at all. I don't think that's what's happening here. Rarely is there a time when something comes up, rarely is there a case and point where somebody is directly not focusing on something. It's more common, at least in my experience, that it's not that they're not focused on their health or they don't care about their health. Their focus is in other areas, or their motivations are in other areas. I think a good example is obesity, right? Why do people become obese? Why do they not focus on their health in that situation? You got to think about values. Going back to the whole episode of values that I did, you got to think about what these people value more: to be skinny or to eat sweets and to eat a lot of food. It's not about you're not focused on your health. You don't care about your health. I don't think that's entering into their minds. It's like saying that I don't care about tennis. I mean, I guess I don't care about tennis, but I'm not sitting there thinking to myself, oh, I don't care about tennis. It's not like a conscious thing. It's that I'm focused on other things, like, the mechanics of laziness, for instance, or why people are how they are, what people do and why they do what they do. In this case, like obesity. Like, why are people obese? What causes this? And the answer has to do with value. What do these people value more? Being skinny or or having pleasurable foods like eating cookies a lot, or eating a lot of donuts, things like this. They may want to get rid of the weight sometimes, but most of the time that doesn't come up because they're focused on eating foods that they like. And so they, because of that, are going to be focused more on that aspect rather than on their health. I mean, I can go into so many examples of this because, like, I think this is something that people do. They look at the result of something like obesity and say, oh, they just don't care about their health, without looking at why these people are obese. Like, what motivations caused this? It's not that they wanted to be obese, it's that they wanted something else. In this case, they wanted food, or they wanted, other things, or maybe it's caused by hypothyroidism. There's actually conditions that cause obesity because of the way the body is, where, like, if you have extreme forms of hypothyroidism, it can cause obesity because of the way the body, because thyroid has a lot to do with metabolism and how slow or fast it is. And there's other aspects that cause metabolism too, but that's one of them. And could be causing this as well. And so we're talking about health here. We're talking about, like, not just health, but what motivates people to be unhealthy. I don't think people are like thinking to themselves, oh, I want to be obese. I love being obese. I think they're just, maybe they're eating their problems away. Sometimes I think it can be kind of a vicious cycle where, like, they eat a bunch of things because they like it. And some people, they emotionally eat, where they eat to cure boredom, they eat to deal with stress. And so they eat a bunch, then they get a little bit fat, and then they notice it and they go, oh man, I'm ugly. And then they eat, and they notice they're getting fatter, and then they eat again to deal with that. And so it becomes like a vicious cycle of eat, notice, eat, notice, eat, notice, until it becomes a habit. And habits are really, really hard to break. I don't think people realize this, but sugar is actually one of the most addictive substances out there. Like, the way that we have our society set up, it is okay to eat chocolate and sugary things, even though they're almost as addictive as alcohol, perhaps more so. Perhaps as more addictive than heroin, almost, in some cases. I think it depends on the person and the body. But things like alcohol and sugar is okay, while things like marijuana, that causes very little addiction, is not. Of course, that's another case of motivation as well. But that's another episode. But anyways, and so the health question is, like, it's more like, in this case, it's not about the health. They're not necessarily thinking to themselves, oh, I want to get fat. Now, maybe they are, but that's a rare case. Most of the time, it's more like about eating. They love food so much that they eat a bunch of it. Like, another example is like a filthy house. You look at the house and you're like, oh, you're filthy. You don't care about cleaning your house. It's like, I don't think that's what it's about. I don't think that's what's going through their minds. Like, oh, I'm just not going to clean the house today. Maybe that is what it is sometimes. But most of the time, I think it's more about, like, their motivations. Like, why are they not cleaning their house? What's the purpose? Because they're focused on other things, video games. Maybe they're working a bunch. Maybe you just caught them on a bad week or something. Something like this. So when it comes to anything like this, it's rarely about the thing you're seeing. If I've noticed in many cases, like when it comes to this kind of thing, it's more about the thing you're not seeing, the motivation that's getting in the way of whatever this thing is. What is this person do on a daily basis, could this be distracting them from such and such, whatever that is, whatever this your particular focus is on, and theirs is not on. That's their motivation, and so you only have so many hours in a day. You only have so much attention to give out throughout the day. I've given this analogy before. I don't know if it's really an analogy, but I've given this understanding before. But basically, you only have, let's say you have 100% attention, and 78% of this attention is on something that you really like a video game or a novel, or whatever it is. Right? Maybe 10% of it all is on what your cat is doing, and the rest is on your thoughts about what it is you're reading. Oh, this is a good book, or this is interesting. This is different from this book that I read, or that book, or whatever, right? If that's what you're focused on, you're not focused on other things like your health, your house, your emotions, your outfit, all these other things that you could be focused on. And you're not focused on them because of your motivation and your value system, what it is that you want to do, basically. And this is why I stress a conscious value system, an aware-based, if that's a word, value system. Because you can become very aware very quickly that the value system that you have is causing you problems if you become conscious of the results of the value system and things like this, because you're writing it down and whatnot. For more information, I'd watch the last episode I just did on this, because it is a very important episode. So, anyways, talk to you all on the next one. Hope you're all having a good week, and I hope to make another one today as well. They won't be coming out in the same day. Probably one of them is going to be coming out in the next couple of days or something, but we'll see.